Okay, good evening, everybody. Uh,
Eve-
just just want to give a few more minutes here to let a few more folks come on in. Good to see you, Roxana. Good evening to you, Jessica,
Good
Elena, Sister
evening.
Trudy. Just want to have a few more moments before we get started on tonight. We are recording this, so if you do not get a chance to watch this live, you obviously can join us on our Facebook page and our YouTube page to get more information. This is the Community Care Conference. I'm Brother Brandon O'Doy, Assistant Minister of the Hope Church of Christ. Every Sunday during the COVID-19 pandemic, we are coming to you with the sole purpose of giving you relatable, reliable, and real information about this virus, about how to cope with it. We spend all week dealing with it from the Word of God and how to manage it from a spiritual perspective. And on Sunday evenings, we go into the mental health aspects and some of the more practical aspects as it relates to just how to deal with it on a day-to-day basis and what that looks like. And we grab members of our own community, our own church family, and even maybe at some time in the future, experts from outside of our family. Last week, we talked to um, PhD, Dr. Trudy Gillard, Sister Trudy Gillard, and our own Roxana Dunn, who is a very talented social worker. I don't want to limit her to being a social worker. She is a mental health advocate. She's a social worker. She has a master's in a bunch of different things, and she's kind of leading this effort. So I want to go ahead and give her the opportunity to come on again tonight. Roxana, how are you doing this evening?
I'm well. How's everybody? Good. So last week we talked about anxiety, managing stress and anxiety. So this week I want to talk about just maintaining while we're in quarantine and while we're in isolation. So as Brandon said, that I do have a background in healthcare administration, healthcare, and as well as behavioral health. So one of my goals is, let me just make a disclaimer to say that we're not diagnosing people, we're just doing education and prevention and also awareness. So I just wanted to make sure that we get that out there first and foremost before we go forward. Today I have Jessica Cadet with me, who's going to be talking about cleaning and sanitation. But before she starts, I'm just going to go back, just a little curtail back to last week when we talked about certain things. And Brandon, you asked me a question about anxiety and certain symptoms. Okay. So last week we talked about anxiety and certain symptoms and what it looks like and what it feels like. And so we also talked about how some of the symptoms of anxiety can exhibit some of the symptoms of having a flu or having our body aches, and some of the symptoms actually resemble some of the COVID-19 symptoms. And one of the questions that you did ask is, what will be the difference from any of these things, these symptoms that we're feeling, that we can kind of pay closer attention to whether it's COVID-19 or if it's stress and anxiety. So the one thing that would definitely differentiate those diagnoses is with a fever. I wanted to go back and say that. When you're stressed and when you have anxiety, it doesn't cause a fever. And that's one of the biggest difference. So if you feel that way, definitely you should go get checked out. So I'm going to share my screen and hold on for a second. Okay, so we're talking about maintaining during isolation and quarantine. So the CDC has given us guidelines to what is quarantine, isolation, and with social distancing. So right now, everybody is practicing social distancing, which means it's a way to keep people from interacting closely or frequently enough to spread. So right now everyone is under this shelter in place order. So although we're practicing social distancing, not everybody is in isolation. So isolation separates sick people with the contagious disease from people who are not. However, we're all self-quarantined because we want to separate and restrict our movement from people who are exposed to the disease. So being in isolation and quarantine can be different, and it causes a lot of worry, it causes a lot of anxiety, and it causes stress and fear. So one of the things that we think about a lot is while we're here, we're thinking about our own health, because we do know that this particular disease, it actually, if you have underlying disease, you're at a higher risk for the survivor chances and for it to be on a worse scale or a less worse scale. Also, one thing that we also consider is the health status of others whom we have exposed ourselves to. And when I say isolation, we're like in close quarters with our family members, our friends, or even we're in isolation like myself. So one thing that I do worry about from time to time is just my own health issues. Although I do not have any underlying health issues, it's just something that we think about because, you know, I do have sinus issues, I do have sinus problems. So that's something that I think about a lot. And if you're living with other people, and I know that people here, some may be married, some might have children or have a spouse or significant other, you're thinking about, okay, am I exposing this person to disease? Are they exposing it to me? Because we're living in close quarters together, and I'm sure not everybody has the luxury of working from home because some people are considered essential workers. I know we have some healthcare workers on here who still have to go to work regardless of, you know, the situation. So we think about those things while we're in quarantine. Those are some of the typical reactions that we have. And so one thing that I do think about is the people who we may potentially expose ourselves to. It could be friends or family members, and people may feel if they need to be quarantined. Last week I talked about how my family member, she just spraying people with Lysol. It's not good, but the thing is, we do have those phobias. If someone gives us something, we're always on the edge of like, oh my goodness, you know, I don't know if this person have this, what they have. So we're always on the edge of thinking about what if, or what if they may have or I have. So it's always that what if question. And also the experience of monitoring yourself or being monitored by others for signs and symptoms of the disease. And sometimes I know a lot of times we're in our head a lot, and we thinking about just monitoring ourselves. We thinking every little cough that we have, oh my gosh, do I have COVID-19? Or if someone sneezes around us, we're hypervigilant. We ready to just like fight, or, you know, we just looking at them crazy, like they're not supposed to sneeze. And let me just say this, it is allergy season. So it's okay for people to have allergies and sneeze and cough from time to time. And some of the typical reactions that we have to quarantine as well is the time off from work and loss of income and job security. So those are the things that we think about. And I know a lot of people are in a situation where they are either furloughed, they were laid off, or they were fired simply because the employers don't have the means to take care of them. So that's when it comes in, it becomes challenging for them, because it becomes challenging for them to secure things such as you need, like groceries, personal care items, rent, utility bills, and everything else that you may deem essential at this time. It also becomes a challenge for all of us just to live day to day. So a lot of things that we do have now, and I'm sure that everybody is dealing with, is the uncertainty of what's going to happen in the future. What's happening next? How do we get to this point? Or am I going to get my job back? Or what's the next move? Is my landlord going to kick me out because I don't have all the money? Or how am I just going to provide for my family, especially at this time? And one of the things that we also have to remember is that things do get better. So at the end of the day, while we're uncertain and we're frustrated, things get better. Not at this moment, but it will get better. And the biggest thing that associated with quarantine is the feeling of loneliness. And I know I can speak for myself when I say that I do live alone. I do not have a significant other. So there is that feeling of loneliness, but there's a feeling of me being alone. Let me just say that, and versus me being lonely, because I'm not lonely, because I know that I'm not far from picking up the phone, using my FaceTime, calling people, talking to my neighbor, texting. So we can also feel that loneliness even when we do have a significant other who's in the house with us, or when we do have kids that's in the house with us, because we're so used to our day-to-day activities that when this takes us out of our routine, it kind of puts us in a spot where we're stressed and we're depressed. So remember that even though when you feel like you're alone, you're not always in that season of loneliness, but also there are people that you can reach out to. Like, you have a phone, we have computers, we're on social media all the time. And I feel like one of the biggest things that's going to get us through it is, us being able to reach out and connect and contact people. So use your mobile devices as much as possible. Let me just say that. I know the CDC used to recommend against using so much airtime and 4G and 5G. Now they're recommending to use these social media outlets. So use these social media outlets, but also keep in mind that limit what you watch and what you put into yourself. So spiraling negative thoughts. We talked about being lonely. We talked about being isolated in that place where we are alone. And that is the biggest time where we do have these negative thoughts. We think about, oh my goodness, I'm stuck in a house. And what am I gonna do? I can't leave the house. This sucks. We have all these negative thoughts about what it is that we're doing. But I want everybody to realize that we could just reframe those negative thoughts and say, okay, instead of me saying I'm stuck in a house, I can finally now focus on my home and myself. And I know it's hard right now to see through what's happening, but in the meantime, I think we've been in this shelter in place for about 2 or 3 weeks now. So if you have not established a routine already, I think you should start doing that. And also refocusing and reframing your thoughts, because at first it sucked, but I mean, by week 3 or week 4, we're going into a whole nother month of shelter in place. We should also have changed our minds. So when you change your thoughts, you'll change the world around you, because that apartment or that home with the kids no longer looks like, oh my gosh, this is a disaster, I'm stuck, what I'm gonna do. It looks like a learning environment. It looks like a thriving environment. It looks like and feels like a clean environment. So you have to definitely change the world around you to be able to survive this isolation and this quarantine. And the next thing is to stay close to normal routine. Now, I know that when everything happened, people were just going, I won't say go out their minds, but people were just, they was anxious, they was nervous. We didn't know what to expect, and we're still in the unknown. So one of the things that I found myself doing is going off of tracks, sleeping later. But it didn't work for me simply because I had to stay on my routine. And when I threw off my routine in the morning, it just kind of threw off everything. And I wanted to stay in bed already all day. And it put me in a place where I caught myself from being depressed and from going into that stress environment, and that's just anxiety altogether. So stay close to your normal routines. And that means, what if you get up in the morning, you go running, you get up in the morning and walk the dog, you get up, you have breakfast, whatever it is that you were doing, stay close to that routine. Avoid obsessing over endless coronavirus coverage. One thing that I do find myself doing, or other people doing, is people send me messages about every little thing about coronavirus. 500 people died today. The thing is, you can't really avoid it unless you unplug. And I'm gonna be honest, whether you picking up the phone, you checking your emails, or whatever the case may be, it's something in your email about coronavirus. Whether you go on Facebook, it's something in your inbox. It's just all over the place. Coronavirus, you really can't run from it. But like I said, the biggest thing for you to do is kind of just to unplug and just not and just not entertain it altogether. I think I shared last week is that some days I watch the news every other day, and that worked for me. It works for me because, for one, I used to be that person who get up in the morning and watch the news simply because I wanted to see the traffic, I wanted to see the weather. But now that, I'm not in a position, we're not in a position to go to work or whatever the case may be, I don't even care about the traffic or the weather anymore. So for me, my mornings look like, I get up in the morning, I pray, I meditate, I listen to some meditation, I watch some meditation videos. And then if I choose to turn on the TV, I will turn on the TV. It's an option for me. It's no longer, okay, every day morning I got to get up and check the news. I have to check the traffic. So it's an option for me. And like I said, every other morning, I turn on the news to see what's going on, or I turn it on midday to see what's happening. And that's it for me. Other than that, I try to just stay away from the coronavirus coverage altogether. And next is just cleaning your space. A chaotic home can lead to a chaotic mind. One thing that I learned is that when you clear your space, it's almost as if you're clearing your mind. Cleanliness is next to godliness. And so when everything happened, I look at it like this. Coronavirus is an unclean spirit. And so because I know and I feel that it's an unclean spirit, it's not welcome in my home. So I'm constantly finding myself cleaning my areas, wiping down, sweeping, mopping, spraying Lysol. So I try to keep my place less chaotic because it's easy for me to navigate. And it just gives me a sense of calmness. It's nothing like coming in the house that smell like bleach and Lysol. So just remember to keep your space clean. And also to start a new quarantine ritual. I know it sounds crazy, but we have to do what we have to do to get through this tumultuous time right now. And for me, like I said, that rituals for me is getting up every day, reading something, writing something. I'm writing quotes on the chalkboard. I'll write in my journal. I'll text something to somebody. I start a ritual simply because, and I've maintained that ritual just because the days are longer now. And since I started doing it on a daily basis, the days have become shorter for me. And I write down a lot of positive affirmations. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of positive affirmations, and I try to send them off to people. And I call people who who now I have the downtime to do it. I call people and I call someone every day just to let them know, hey, I'm thinking about you. Everything's okay. That's a ritual for me. That's a quarantine ritual. And also just to use telehealth to communicate with the provider. If you're feeling as if, this situation is too much for you, you can always use telehealth. You don't have to go in, like I said last week, to not go into the doctor unless you are literally not able to function. So I'm going to tell you to just scratch all those appointments that you may have on your calendar that's just for you taking blood or whatever the case may be. Unless you really have to go, don't go. So lastly, I want everybody to find a purpose. One of my classmates, we always sending each other these charts and stuff, but I found this to be very helpful to me because, and I'm sure it would be very helpful and purposeful to everybody else as well too. And so while I received this, I was thinking to myself, who do I want to be during COVID-19? So do I want to do I want to be in a fear zone? Do I want to go to the learning zone, or do I want to grow and go to the growth zone? So the fear zone, I think that everybody at this point was in the fear zone. And that probably was the first week or two, second week of March, where we were hoarding food. We were hoarding toilet paper, medicines, and we complained all the time. And we also, we was forwarding messages to everybody. Oh my gosh, look, did you see how many people died in China? Did you see this video? Did you see that? We were definitely in that fear zone. Now, I don't know what stage that everybody else is in right now, but I feel like I'm beyond the fear zone now, and I'm in that growth zone. But before we get to this growth zone, I am and still am. I'm in the learning zone as well as in the growth zone because I stopped compulsively consuming things that harm me, from food to news. So I see people saying, oh my gosh, I'm hungry again. No, that's anxiety. That's stress. That's depression. You're not hungry. Your body is just it's trying to activate itself because you're under a lot of pressure. So for me, what made me stop being in that compulsive zone where I was just like eating or I was wanting to watch the news. Anytime I thought about wanting to do it, I would go outside and I would jump rope like 100 times. So now I've changed the jump rope to like, and every time that I get that anxiety, I'll go outside and jump rope. Whatever it is that will make you happy, whether it's sit-ups, pull-ups, bouncing the ball, walking the dog. I had to really stop that behavior because it wasn't working for me. And it says, start letting go of things that are out of your control. The fact that COVID-19 is here, we cannot change that. We can only change what's in our control, and that is changing our environment. We can control our environment, the living situation that we're in, our houses, our homes, our cars, whatever the case may be, where we go, who we choose to talk to. Those are things that we can control. Now, sometimes we cannot control well, not sometimes, but we can't control everybody else around us, but we can control how we react to certain things. And also, it's also good to identify your emotions. If you're feeling a certain way, let people know. Because one thing I've learned is I call people and I've been like, this sucks. Like I just don't like this, and I'm in a mood to where I don't even know what to think anymore. And the truth of the matter is, we can't control the situation. So stop thinking that we can do something to help the situation, to control that this virus is here, and control our emotions and control the things that we can control. Also, in the learning zone, it says, I make myself aware of situations and think about the best way to act. The example that I'm going to use here is, I'm sure that everybody can relate to it, just being in the grocery store when people not abiding by that 6 feet rule. And I always, kind of scope out the situation like, okay, what line I want to be in. And so, people try to get close to me. I'm like, hey, have you been reading about, social distancing, 6 feet, you're not 6 feet. And so the best way I react is normally to be like, can you back up? Normally I'm like, hey, social distancing here. Can we practice that? And, they get the idea of what I'm talking about. And they'll back up and stand on that next line. Like, that's why the tape is there for you to stand there. But anyways, also to verify information before you share it. There's a lot of false information that's going around here. And what we need to do is to verify it. I mean, verified or not verified. The truth of the matter is, it's just a lot of things that are happening now that if you want valid information, if you want the facts, I would say just go straight to the source. Go to these government websites, go to the CDC, go to SAMHSA, go to these different websites that are sponsored by the government to read up on these things and acknowledge that everybody is trying their best. And I know sometimes we could be in the store shopping and, a sales associate probably don't have the thing that you're looking for. And the thing is, everybody is trying their best here because, like I said, people are in the same situation. We're all in basically the same situation. We're all in this together. The people you see at the grocery store, they have a family as well too. They have a spouse that they would rather be home with, but then they have to work because they're essential workers. And finding purpose in the growth zone is where we should all strive to be. And think about helping others. That's something that I do, whether it's a neighbor, a family member, or just a random act of kindness. Just think about helping others. One, and another one is to use my skills to service ones in need. Prime example is me now using my skills as a social worker to help people who are in need. And whatever skill it is that you have, whether you're a nurse or whether you cut yard, whatever the case may be, use that skill to learn how you can help others and just help people with that skill. And show empathy to yourself and others. And it's okay to be in this situation, because we're, like I said, we're all in this together. We're not dealing with this one-on-one. It's a collective effort from everybody, and we're all here together. And live in the present and focus on the future. Also, it says keep finding myself emotionally happy and transmit hope. A lot of times I send people random text messages like, "Hey, how are you? I'm thinking about you," or um, "Hey, this too shall pass." Like, just put out positive energy and show gratefulness. And also just to find ways to adapt to the changes. Like I said, this is a situation that we can't change, so we have to find ways to basically adapt to the situation. And if that means staying in the house and not going outside, that's what it's going to take. And practice calmness, patience, relationships, and creativity. Now it's a time, or not, you can choose to be creative, calm, patient, relationships, work on relationships and patience and creativity. Now it's a good time because we have all this time in the world now. This is a good time to kind of focus on those things. Focus on the things that we said that we needed to work on, but we said we never had the time to do it. But now we do have the time. And lastly, last week I mentioned about the apps that I use. I use the app. It's called Calm and Happy Fi and Peace. And YouTube, of course, has these different channels that we could go on and find different meditation videos. And I don't know, as far as everything else, I do have a video that I want to show everybody. Let me find it really quickly. Let me stop sharing for a second. Let's see. Where is it? Okay, it's not playing. Okay, it's not working. So that's my time. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Roxana. Just appreciate the depth of that presentation. And why don't you go ahead and introduce Sister Jessica Cadet and what she's going to be discussing tonight?
So Jessica is going to be discussing cleaning and sanitation. She has her own cleaning company, so she's definitely going to be talking about cleaning, sanitation, and what else she's going to be discussing. I'm not sure, but I know she's going to give us she's going to be just giving us some tips on how we could keep our house clean, how we could keep our space clean, and what else? And just going to just help us walk us through the cleaning process. So Jessica, whenever you're ready.
Hello, everyone. How are you guys? So, my name is Jessica Cadet, and I am the owner of the Cleaning Cadet. And so we are very much still actively working right now. Okay. During this time, so many people are needing to utilize the services because they are having that anxiety of wanting to keep their homes clean and getting them sanitized because they're so nervous about what's coming in and out of their homes. So tonight I'm going to just share with you a couple of tips that we have of, just keeping your home clean and sanitized, and just kind of maybe giving you a little bit more peace of mind about the space that you're going to be spending the most time in with all of this quarantine that we have going on here. So I am going to try to share my screen with you as well. Hold on, guys. Give me just a second. Sorry. So share screen. Start now. All right. Can you guys see it? No? Okay, so you know what? Don't worry about the screen. We gonna walk it out. We gonna talk it out, all right? All right. So the first thing that I want to talk about is limiting your home's exposure to outside um, entities. As far as you want to make sure that you're disinfecting things that you bring into your home. And we're going to talk about that in a second as well, too, because there is a difference between cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting. And I want to make sure that everybody is completely aware of what that is. But we want to disinfect items that we're bringing into our home. So when you're going to the grocery store, when you're bringing things in from your car, even your keys, you know, things like that, you want to make sure that you're disinfecting items that you're bringing into your home so you're not contaminating your home. Another best practice to do, wash your hands as soon as you get into your house before you start walking around and touching everything. You just want to make sure that you wash your hands. That's one of the things that we do with our clients when we go into their homes. First thing we do, we wash our hands because we don't want to bring anything from somebody else into your home. And I would imagine that you guys will want to do the same thing. Another best practice that we personally use is we change our clothes as soon as we get home. So we don't go sit on our couch, sit on our bed, you know, in the clothes that we've been in out in the world all day. We come home and we immediately change our clothes. Let's see. Taking your shoes off before you, can everybody hear me? Just want to make sure. Valerie? Okay, I don't think it cut me off. Okay. Taking your shoes off before you go into your home. It's a best practice to maybe have a pair of inside shoes sitting at your front door. So as soon as you walk in, you could just slip on those shoes and go about your day. And honestly, it's not even too much to ask that, let's just say, for instance, you're running in and you're running out and you don't have time to change your shoes. Keep a pair of shoe covers in your bag. Throw your shoe covers on, run into your house, run back out, you know. And lastly, if someone is sick in your home, quarantine them to a specific area in your home so that you don't infect the entire area, and try to limit access to that area as much as possible. So the difference between sanitizing, disinfecting, and cleaning. So cleaning is when you are cleaning an area that is visibly dirty. So there's ick and grime and, I don't know, maple syrup on the counter. You're cleaning that off, okay? That's what you're doing when you're cleaning. Cleaning is simply using soapy water, a multi-purpose cleaner, you know, and you're just pretty much getting the grime off of that area, okay? Sanitizing, this is the one where a lot of people get it confused between sanitizing and disinfecting. Sanitizing does not kill germs. Sanitizing removes germs so that the germs are removed so they're lessened, okay? So it's not necessarily getting rid of them or killing them, but it's just limiting the number of germs and viruses that may be on a surface. Disinfecting is the method that actually kills the germs and kills the viruses that are on a surface. So especially during this time, disinfecting is what you actually want to do. So there's 3 steps to disinfecting. First one is clean it. You have to clean anything before you disinfect it. You can't just go and spray it with Lysol or spray it down and think that you have to clean it first, okay? That's the first step. Second, you want to disinfect it. You want to disinfect it by preferably using CDC recommended disinfectants that are recommended to get rid of the coronavirus. And you guys can go to the CDC website and they have an entire list on that website that you can use. But if the list is very long and is very extensive, and there's a lot of items on that list that are mostly available for commercial use, but there are a lot of items that you can use that are available just in stores. And just a few of those items, like most of the Lysol multi-purpose cleaners are recommended for the coronavirus, as well as a bleach solution. And I'll give you guys the ratios to that a little bit later. But you disinfect. So here's where the disinfecting and the sanitizing difference comes into play. So the step 2 is disinfecting. The difference is the dwell time. The dwell time is the amount of time that you are leaving that disinfectant on that surface. So you don't want to wipe, you don't want to spray and wipe and go. You want to spray and let it stay, okay? You want to make sure that you are giving that chemical the amount of time that it needs to do its job properly, okay? So you want to look at the back of your bottle, your packaging, and it'll tell you the contact time that it needs to be on the surfaces. The average virus for most products is between 60 to 90 seconds, but that's not always the case because there are some that are 5 or 10 minutes depending on what you're using. So you want to make sure that you're reading the back of your label, and also reading your labels to make sure that you are using the proper safety precautions, you're using the proper PPE that you may need to use. So, and another thing with the disinfecting, you want to make sure that you're changing your cleaning cloth regularly, okay? You don't want to take one cloth and wipe down your whole house. You want to make sure that you are changing your cloth regularly. And like, for instance, I have a cloth right here. Fold your cloth into 4s, okay? Fold your cloth into 4s, clean a few items, you know, and when I say a few items, I'm talking about like high touch points. Those are the main things that we want to hit when we're hitting the house and we're disinfecting. Of course, you're going to clean your house normally, but the main areas that you want to make sure that you disinfect are your high touch points. Those are your doorknobs, your light switches, your sink faucets and things like that, computer keyboards, cell phones, keys, things that are being touched regularly and often by all family members in your home are the things that you want to make sure that you are regularly disinfecting. And when I say regularly, you would want to do that at least a minimum of once a day, okay? If you could do it more often, wonderful, but you at least want to do it once a day. All right. Next, so for that bleach solution, and this is recommended by the CDC. They say if you're not able to get any of that, you know, the brand name chemicals that they have on their website, you can use a bleach solution, which is 5 tablespoons, which is 1/3 of a cup of bleach per gallon of water, or you can use 4 tablespoons of bleach per quart of water. Okay. So that if you're not able to get like the Lysols or, you know, the germicidal bleaches and stuff like that, this is perfectly fine for you to use. And again, just read the back of the labels for your dwell times and your safety precautions. Another thing, where even though it's your own home, make sure you are wearing gloves, okay? And make sure you are wearing masks. And the reason why I say wear a mask, because you may say, oh, like, why do I have to wear a mask in my own house? You know, I'm pretty sure we're pretty clean, you know. But even as cleaners, when we go into homes, we wear masks. And we were doing this long before coronavirus, the pandemic. Because as we know, coronavirus has really been around for a long time. This is just a new strand of it. But so this pandemic for COVID-19 that we're in right now, we've been doing it long before then. Because a lot of times when you're cleaning, stuff comes back and it hits you in your face, okay? So, you know, when you wear that mask, you know, and you're cleaning your toilet, you don't have to worry about, you know, any exposure, because it happens, trust me. So, you just want to make sure that you're careful and you're safe, because again, a lot of times we're not showing symptoms, you know what I mean? So someone in your house could very well be infected and you have no idea, you know? And so we just want to make sure, you know, that we're being safe as possible. And in that, with wearing gloves, dispose of your gloves after you use them. If you're using reusable gloves, read your labels on your gloves for proper sanitizing and disinfecting of your gloves. When you're wearing face masks, and this isn't even just for cleaning your house, when you're wearing your face mask, make sure you wash your hands before you put your mask on, And make sure that when you put your mask on, you are not touching the inside of your mask, because you're kind of defeating the purpose. So make sure that you are only touching the outside, and make sure that your hands are clean when you put them on. And then if you are using disposable masks should honestly only really be used once and tossed, because they're disposable. If you are using the reusable cloth masks, wear them once, wash and sanitize them, then wear them again. Okay. Let's see. Air it out. Don't be afraid to air out your home. Again, according to the CDC, proper ventilation in a home can very well help prohibit the lifetime that the droplets are remaining in your area. So open those windows, turn on that AC, and like let your house air out, you know. Get some fresh air. So electronics, again, you know, making sure that all electronics, you can go to their websites or check with the manufacturers to find out how to properly disinfect without damaging. But you want to make sure you're disinfecting your electronics too. A lot of times, like I said, we forget our phones, we forget our keys, and actually even the interiors of your cars. You know, you want to make sure that you're getting that, because those get neglected a lot of times, and a lot of times we're not washing our hands in and out of our cars, you know, so we want to make sure that we do that. Clothing, your clothing, you want to make sure that you are washing your clothing in warm water, and they actually have a Lysol sanitizer that is recommended by the CDC that can actually be used as a pre-soak in the laundry as well. And last but not least, wash our hands. Wash your hands as much as possible. You can never do it too much, and do it for at least 20 seconds. At least 20 seconds, wash your hands. So if there's any questions.
Thank you so much, Jessica, and we appreciate you so much for that very informative presentation, particularly as it relates to disinfecting the things in our homes, cleaning our homes. I think some of that information you shared may have been stuff that we really didn't know, particularly like putting on masks, how to take masks off, cleaning inside your home, using a mask for that, and so many other things. This has been the second Community Care Conference. I'm Brandon O'Doy, Assistant Minister of the Hope Church of Christ. Our goal and our aspiration is to bring you real, relatable, and reliable information about how to deal with this COVID-19 pandemic. And we are trusting in the Lord for all that he will do and all that he has already done. Listen, as Brother Daniels, our senior minister, talked about earlier today, this is the time for the children of God to examine themselves, because surely judgment begins at the house of the Lord. And this has given us the time to reflect and look and see what God wants us to do. And hopefully this has been an opportunity for you to have an introspective look. Roxana put up a great diagram about what our purpose is, how can we move past our fears and then begin to have purpose even in such a time as this. Hopefully this has been a blessing to you. We will see you again next week at 7 p.m. Until the next time, God is good all the time, and all the time, God is good. Be blessed.